Let's see if this works. Just hope this works. Okay, is this working? I think it's working on YouTube. I hope it works. Okay. Thank you for the raid, Dusty Y. Thank you, man. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so annoying. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That's literally just that just happened. That's insane that they just did that. Like, what are the chances that they just put out an update right now? Okay. Cool. It's okay. It's only Steven's time you're wasting. Yeah, it's not like he has a huge game launch in like 14 hours or anything. Okay, sorry. Real quick. Here, we're gonna do take two. Maybe take one was good for the YouTube video, edited video, but we'll do this again. So you guys have it on the VOD if you guys want to watch the uncut VOD. First off, welcome. If you guys are new here, my name is Esfand. I was really big in kind of like the push for classic WoW, legacy servers, all that stuff years and years ago. That's kind of where I come from. I'm an old school MMO gamer, and I've had interest in Ashes of Creation. I watched the Q&A that happened the other day with Vladis and a bunch of these guys, right? I watched the Q&A that happened the other day. They did a phenomenal job, and that's like it was particularly good for like the deep cut Ashes of Creation community, the guys who've been playing. Now, for me, I'm like 2 steps away, right? Where the last time I played Ashes was I played for a little bit last year in the alpha, and then I played like maybe 1 or 2 days in the alpha prior to that. So whenever that happened, because of that situation, I'm not super in the know with Ashes of Creation. But what I am is I'm like an old school MMO gamer. My first MMO was Dark Age of Camelot, big on classic WoW. Burning Crusade is like my favorite expansion in WoW, all that stuff. But I come from that era, the EverQuest, the Star Wars Galaxies, Shadowbane, that era of MMO gaming. That's like my home, right? That's where I'm from. Knowing that Ashes of Creation kind of stems from the same place behind creative director Steven Sharif, I hit up Steven the other day and I was like, hey, are you down? I hit him up yesterday during the interview. I did not mean to interrupt the interview, but I hit him up during the interview because I guess he could hear his notifications. He's like, who's messaging me? I hit him up and he's like, yeah, absolutely, I'm down. So the intent here is this is more of like a casual sort of hangout, right? Where we're going to talk about the game, we're going to learn kind of what to expect and kind of basically tell us more about what to expect tomorrow, with the target audience being the guys who are like me, right? The old school MMO gamers who maybe haven't been as much into it. But I'm calling him now, and we will actually, let's see. Do we want us to use this call? We could use this call. Let me see here. Yo, Steven. Let's see. Can you hear me? Let's see. Let's do this. Let's try this one more time. Steven, can you say something? Testing audio. Let's see if we have you here. Steven, can you try one more time? I don't have you for some reason.
You know what? That's totally my bad.
There we go.
I pushed to talk.
Oh,
I
all
forgot
good.
I pushed to talk set.
All good.
True gamer. My bad. Hold
That's
on.
how it goes.
Let me set it up. Wait 1 second.
No, you're all good. And I can turn on my camera too. Let's see. Turn on camera. I will turn on my.
There we go. All right. I think I got voice activity.
Okay. Do you have my camera too?
Yeah. I got your camera.
Okay. Sick. Click. We could do this.
I am the I'm the old school Ventrilo gamer who always like required push to talk. Nobody could have voice activated because I didn't want to hear anybody like, chew and eat and shit.
Yeah.
So it just became a habit. I could not have push to talk.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Here, let me see. For some reason, my camera's not showing up for me. You can see my camera though.
I can see your camera. Yep.
It's okay. We'll
But
work
you
around
can't
it.
see it in Discord?
Yeah, kind of weird, but
That's weird.
we can work around it. It's not a big deal. I'll do this, and then I'll put myself here. All right. Chad, everything look good? You guys see Steven?
Good. We see.
All right.
So I was I tuned in a little early.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And
yeah.
I tuned in at the perfect spot.
Uh-huh.
You
What was
had
that?
your camera in this weird angle that was like looking up to you, and you told your stream to suck it. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then it was Home Improvement for like 20 minutes. And I was like, "What am I doing here?"
So I feel like I've been doing a lot of like AI videos of myself using Sora, and I think I'm starting to get influenced by my own AI. So I start having random outbursts. Yeah, either that or I don't know. Maybe I'm developing Tourette's. I don't know. One or the other. Yeah,
I was like, that was the perfect time to join the stream. That was so good.
Yeah, no, that
But I was
that's a good
surprised. The egg actually kind of, balanced a
Yeah.
little bit.
time. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a little wonky there at the end. I don't know what was going on with the
Yeah,
whole.
I think it was just like evil, just
It's
like
probably
dark
the egg's
magic.
fault, to be honest with you.
I think
probably
it's the
weird.
egg's fault.
It's got like a yolk or something.
Well, as a streamer, as an MMO streamer especially, usually whenever something doesn't go my way, I have so many people I can blame, and that's pretty much the way that I go about things. So it definitely was the egg's fault. So how you been? You're one day out.
Holy shit!
Isn't
We
that
are.
crazy?
It is. It's a little scary, but it's also really like real. That we're a day. Like 2 weeks ago, I was like, "Oh shit, we're 2 weeks out." A week ago, I was like, "Oh god, we're a week out."
Yeah.
Now today, I'm just kind of just like pacing around, reading the updates, being sitting in meetings, responding to messages, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's literally tomorrow."
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
crazy.
I kind of feel like
Now-
it's it sounds like it's kind of the same feeling that I used to have whenever I had finals in school, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm good. I don't like it's like I'm good. We got finals in like 2 weeks, in a week, whatever, and then all of a sudden you got your exams and you're like, oh frick, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, no, it is kind of like that, but like, also with 250 employees that are, folk like
It's like a really
blood,
big
sweat-
group project. Really big group project. So you got
Exactly.
250 guys who can cover your ass, basically.
That's right, exactly. That's
there
right.
you go.
I made a post. I made a post on X because last night I was trying to okay, I need to get some amount of sleep the day before and the day before that. So I was like, let me try to get 4 or 5 hours of sleep tonight. But before that, I wanted to try to de-stress, and I'm like a big TNG nerd, a big Star Trek Next Generation nerd. And I watched Best of Both Worlds, and there was this particular scene where Picard's like walking through the ship just before the battle with the Borg, and he's like doing that walkthrough and shit. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of how it feels right now. You're just like walking the ship. You're like, the battle's about to begin.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, dude. That's fantastic. So I want to, you're talking about, you're a Star Trek fan, kind of your background a little bit. So, I mean, we've known each other for a few years now because I'm trying to remember, when did we first meet, talk? Was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was a long time now.
I think it was 2020.
Yeah, maybe it was like 5 years ago. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Somewhere
Yeah,
around.
I think I did that. I did that show with Asman. I can't remember the name of it now. What was it called?
Was it on Pixel Pitch?
No.
No.
It was like it was like a Q&A like roundtable show. He used to do them all the time.
Oh, Allcraft.
Allcraft. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Allcraft. I did that Allcraft. And then we started chatting like right after then.
Mhm.
And then I remember when we first did our Alpha 2, you jumped in and you were playing on a bard. And it was like the biggest meme in the studio.
Yeah.
Because you had that drum
Yeah.
and the drumstick kept getting, gargantuan.
It was huge.
Like literally it was the size of the city. You were
Yeah.
like bonking people with that drumstick.
Yeah. I'm telling you,
And it
that's where Mega Bonk came from. I was the first Mega Bonker.
It was so good.
Yeah. So no, we actually watched that clip earlier today. I don't even remember how I did it. I think it was like a macro, or like I don't know if it was, no, it wasn't a macro. It was sorry, it was I think I would cast one. I would use one instrument and then I would use the other one right after or something. And it was like mid cast, it would switch the cast or something. I don't know what it would. I can't even remember how I did it.
There was some bug in the animation montage, I think, for that particular ability. Play the instrument and it would spawn in the mesh, the drumstick mesh, like at a variable size, right? It didn't have a clamp to it or anything.
Right.
So,
okay. So that's fixed, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that's fixed. But we are giving consideration to making sure that's an ability in the future.
Nice.
No, just kidding.
Yeah. So again, kind of like talking about like the background. So you're the creative director for Ashes Creation.
Yep.
Or John Ashes, as some people might call you.
John Ashes.
so
I like that.
How did you? This is all older information, but I just want to get some people caught up because I know even I've had like old guildies, like old Crusade members reach out to me like, oh, I didn't even realize Ashes was going into early access tomorrow until I posted in my Discord. Because I posted in my guild Discord, my old WoW guild Discord, and I was like, hey, I'm going to start a guild in Ashes for early access. If anybody else is trying it out or whatever, just let me know so that I can get everybody in. But like how did you get into this role? How did the idea for Ashes Creation come about? Your creative director, all that stuff, just to lay the groundwork.
It's kind of a not typical story.
Okay.
So, my background is I have played MMORPGs since I was 7 years old. So this was like back in 1992 was my first MMO.
Okay.
This, for those of you who are old enough and remember AOL, back when you had to get on the internet and pay, you did a little phone thing, it would call, do the just whatever. And then you would have like a time tracker because you literally paid by the hour to use the internet. Remember that? It was like $6
you had minutes
by the hour. You'd literally like refresh the minutes and shit. It was crazy. And there was a game on AOL called Neverwinter, and this was like almost it was like the first graphical MMORPG, but it was born out of like the historical MUDs, and I got hooked like from the get-go. I was 7 years old. I was like rushing home. I was in fucking second grade playing on the computer. I was playing like Civilization 1 at the time, Syndicate. I was playing XCOM Terror from the Deep, like on floppy disk. There was like 7 floppy disks you had to get and shit.
Yeah.
And then I played Neverwinter, and I was like, damn, this is crazy. There's other people. I'm talking to them. I'm like a wizard. Fucking Dracolich just spawned a poison cloud over my ass and killed me. What is going on? Right. So I got like super immersed into the fantasy of it and the D&D aspect. And I continued to play these types of games. Right, as we moved on, I got into like Lineage and Lineage 2 and original Guild Wars, EverQuest, and kind of moved my way through all the different games. And when I was younger, I was a little bit of a go-getter at a young age. 15, 16, I started my first company. I was doing marketing, doing like radio co-ops and stuff, and I didn't have a lot of time for social activity, so my social atmosphere was the MMORPG, was the internet. Back when the internet wasn't, super huge. So my perspective has always been a player first.
Okay.
And then when I was 30, which is now 10 years ago, holy shit, I'm 40 years old. I'm 40 years old. When I was 30, I decided that I was playing a game called ArcAge, and I loved ArcAge. I thought ArcAge was awesome. But I got super jaded in ArcAge because a lot of the guild that I had at the time, a lot of people quit because the monetization practices of the game were super kind of predatory with the pay to win model, with the labor that they had to do. Nothing against ArcAge or the developers or the publishers. Like it was, that's cool. That's a way to approach it, but it was just a way that I felt kind of undermined the integrity of the player achievement. And I thought that was kind of shitty because here's a great opportunity, right? This is a really great product, really great game. A lot of people want to play it, but they're getting disincentivized to do so because at the end of the day, somebody can swipe their card, and defeat all the time that I've spent or that other people have spent in the game.
Right.
And then it became a thing where you kind of like, you had to swipe your card. If you wanted to be a competitive player in this PvP style game, you had to swipe your card. And that really sucked.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it wasn't about skill. It wasn't about, organization or strategy or your ability to like bring people together. It was more about like how many of you are spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
Nick would like
that.
My friend Nick would love Arcade.
that kind of seemed pervasive too. Like it wasn't just Arcade. There was a lot of MMOs that were going in that direction. And so I thought there was an opportunity. To see whether or not, there was a cross section of the MMORPG genre, player base that wanted to participate in bringing to life a product that, as a central tenet, would never introduce pay to win and would build a style of game that was in that kind of sandpark fashion. That wasn't super railroady. That wasn't super like, A to B to C to D, but instead incorporated elements where a lot of players could make those decisions. Because I was also a big D&D player, right? Going back, harkening to the Neverwinter immersion, I started playing D&D, like homebrew campaigns. And then I got into Pathfinder, loved Paizo, built the Ashes of Creation world narratively in that homebrew campaign, letting my players, kind of create businesses and build towns and shit. And I tried to transpose that game design with the systems that I experienced in a number of different other games, and tried to bring it cohesively into one heavy systems driven idea. And that's where Ashes of Creation was born. Serendipitously, I'm in San Diego, so was close to Sony Online Entertainment, the godfathers of, MMO, EverQuest, Star Wars Galaxies, PlanetSide. And I would play with a lot of these developers at my local game store, which is Game Empire down in Claremont Mesa. And I'd play a lot of Warhammer 40K. I'd play Warhammer Fantasy. We had like a narrative campaign and stuff. And I got to know people. And I was like, I have this crazy idea. Is this something you guys think is a good idea or not? And they were like, yeah, I think it's a fucking great idea. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, well, here, I'm going to fund this thing. And if we can make this game the way that I think we can, I think we're going to find it.
Yeah.
And so, we went to Kickstarter and we pitched the idea. We saw that there was a lot of people that agreed with that approach and wanted to see a game come to life like this. And that's where it was born. We were a ragtag team of a dozen people back in 2016. And we started off on that journey. And here we are today now with, hundreds of square kilometers of the world in place, a lot of our core systems in place, having that sandbox kind of approach, in an open world, non-faction based, fantasy driven, style MMO, with a lot of these different systems designs kind of trying to work cohesively.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, it's crazy because like hearing the whole story of how everything started, I feel like if you're in our generation of gamer, especially if you're an MMO player, it sounds like you're kind of like living the dream. It's like we grew up
you think
MMOs.
It's a dream, brother. Let me tell you, you think it's a dream, but it's a fucking fever dream. I'm gonna tell you right now,
because it's everybody grows up. And if you were like deep into MMOs, you're like, man, I want to make my own MMO. I want to make my own game. Like when I went into college, like I was a computer science student. And then I realized, wait, I'm really bad at this. So I stopped doing that. That's all I wanted to do my whole life. All I wanted to do was play games. Make games. And now I play them and publish them, but I absolutely cannot make them. So I kind of, I think other people who are kind of in our demographic age range see that and they're like, damn, like this is really cool. You grew up playing old school MMOs. You want to make a new old school MMO that is kind of has a lot of those same elements and just kind of a little bit more modernized new twist on it. And I know for me, whenever I look at what Ashes has to offer, and like I said, I played a little bit, we talked before. When you look at Ashes, and this is the kind of what I've gotten from a lot of people who are kind of in my boat where they're, maybe a step or two out of ashes and they're just kind of like peering over and be like, wait, what's over there?
Right.
What do the neighbors got over the fence? Right.
Right.
It seems like a lot. There's a bunch of different systems, the node system, the corruption with the PvP, the towns, the mayors, this, that, everything else going on. It does kind of feel like you're getting a bunch of stuff from a bunch of different games thrown at you all at once, which is kind of what you described. But if you didn't play all those games, it might seem kind of daunting. So
overwhelming.
Yeah. So like if I'm a new player and I want to try Ashes for the first time tomorrow in early access, like what do you think the best approach is for going into that and being able to digest all the information there is in the first day?
Well, the first thing that so let me take your first point there.
Okay.
I've gone through the crucible
Uh-huh.
of learning game development, right?
Okay.
From starting back in 2016 now, 9 years, from knowing nothing but the player perspective. Like I had the vision of what I want. I had the vision of all the gameplay systems and how they would work together. I spent a lot of time with the designers, orchestrating out what that looks like. But getting from A to B, obviously bringing on a team of experienced veteran developers is an integral part of that. And along the way, I was literally being dragged across coals, fires, spikes, and, to some degree, it's like, it's a death march, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like you are learning so much in such a short period of time. And it is, it's not an easy thing. MMORPGs are likely the most difficult, complex piece of software from a gaming perspective that is just a simple truth.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why not a lot of companies or publishers invest both the time, money and effort in order to produce these. That's why we don't see a lot of them coming out. We'll see a shooter, every other week, but we don't see a new MMORPG hit the scene very often, especially one, that's trying to be as ambitious as we are. And to answer your question about the number of systems that we have, the overwhelming, amount of kind of complex systems driven design that exists, to some degree, that is part of the Sand Park design that we're trying to achieve. We could very easily create a very curated, role play experience that takes you along a main story quest line, and brings you to an end game where, we're constantly trying to flood it with content. But I think there's games out there that do that already very well, right? There's World of Warcraft, there's Guild Wars, there's Final Fantasy. Like, if you're trying to produce a product that's going to compete with those games, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and failure, because they've had literal decades now to continue to reinforce those loops, reintroduce content into those loops, and out the gate, no project's ever going to stand toe to toe with them. Now, what I think helps the genre evolve and helps push it towards directions that I think, it should go in if we want to see these games get, more production, more titles come out that represent something new and innovative, is we need to actually innovate. We need to change things about the experience that we've had historically in these games. And the one thing that I would say to new players that is unique about Ashes is our settlement system and these sandbox type systems that allow you to kind of build the world up. Another thing that's important is engaging with the community. So if you're a new player and you're looking to, jump into the early access, and it's important to note, like, you shouldn't be expecting a completed product. We are not a completed product. We are in alpha, and part of the unique approach that we've been taking, and we get a lot of shit for and a lot of flack for, is we're very open in our development. So much so where you might, see bugs and issues that really interrupt the experience. But right now we're not trying to make a great experience. We're trying to make great systems that ultimately will create a great experience. And in order to do so, our philosophy is that we should incorporate the player as part of that process, right? Because, oftentimes these products that when they come out, a lot of people, they rush to them. You'll see a million user concurrency, and then boom, it jumps off of a cliff. And the reason why is because those systems might not be what the player base is looking for, or it's a rinse and repeat of other systems that do it better in different projects. Right? Exactly. And so in order to address that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have these very open alphas and betas so that we can refine and iterate on these innovative approaches to ensure that when we do launch, that we're launching with something players want and something that's new, right? Something that's unique, that brings something different to the space. So for a new player, what I would say is get involved in the community. If you're looking to participate in early access and you want to see what we've developed so far, how it might speak to you as an MMO enthusiast or an MMO genre player, become a part of the community, join the Discord, participate in our live streams, give feedback on our forums, fill out the surveys when we send them, go in and bug report things. Like, don't go into this early access with the expectation that you're going to experience a completed game, but that you're going to be a part of creating the game that ultimately you will want to play. That is what the objective of this early access is really meant to provide people, that opportunity. And it hasn't really been done, I don't think, at the scale that we're trying to do it for a fantasy MMORPG, right? Like that is, it is unique in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's I think that was a really comprehensive answer. And just having that sort of, I think a lot of people want that, right? Like everybody, all gamers, but particularly MMO players are very, very opinionated. And everybody wants to put their 2 cents in. And this is like an opportunity, I think, for a lot of people to, hey, like this is a game that is open to hearing feedback. So it's cool to have that opportunity to get to talk to you guys and give that feedback. And then it's your guys' job to sift through all the noise and be like, okay, this is good feedback. This is not going to work. Wait, we didn't even think about this thing. Let's add this. This is dead on. We should 100% do this, And I think that's cool. And I think that's really that's the difficult part of game design. It seems to me as a developer, your job being, hey, don't just listen to the players, hear the players, and then come up with a way to address the issues that they're having. And it seems cool, like seeing like you guys kind of take that head on with that approach.
Yeah, I mean that is literally the lifeblood of our team. We've been now in our alpha for the last year, and every day our community team is part of collecting that feedback, and then they generate reports that go to the developers, and the developers are part of the community. We're in the guilds, we are playing with the other players, we're eating the food that we put out for everyone to participate in, and then we take the feedback and we take our own experiences and we are iterating on the designs, because it's difficult to build a thing and then try to change it once it's built, right?
Yeah.
That is a very difficult prospect, and it's also very wasteful from a production standpoint. But when you have the opportunity to iterate correctly during the development process, that's the best bang for buck, but also ensures that we're not wasting time going down a system path that perhaps players don't want.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's like it's an interesting thing, especially having to, for me, like just kind of dipping my toes into the first alpha, then the second alpha. I remember I actually went back and I watched a video I did a year ago and kind of how I felt about everything. And I'll tell you right now, the first alpha, I was like, okay, like we'll see. The second alpha, I remember logging in, and at first I was like, I don't know, how much different it is. I remember opening up the map, having trouble with, finding where stuff was, and I was a little bit confused. I remember Soda rage quit and was like, he was like, I can't do this. And he just like literally ended his stream. Chat has told me ever since you guys have like reworked a lot of that stuff. So, so that's a good thing.
Well, we spent obviously time focusing on new user experience, right, including additional first-time user experience systems, getting players kind of acclimated to the core gameplay loops. But ultimately, we've over the past year, there's a lot to do in the game now. We released an early access guide yesterday on our YouTube channel that kind of talks about, what there is in the game from a completed loop perspective, functional loop perspective, that people can participate in. And then we're constantly releasing, new features, new content as we progress through the alpha on our way towards beta.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so it's cool to see kind of the direction the game's going, and I'm excited. Do you think have you guys kind of made a decision on how you guys want to approach the transition from early access to launch? Like, are you going to do a wipe, or have you guys
yes, yeah, we will do a wipe for sure. Okay. And that is on the on the Steam page. We talk about that.
Oh, okay.
There is a potential for there to be wipes in the alpha as well, in the early access as well. It just kind of depends, how we might need to approach rejiggering certain elements of the economy. Although we try our best to not do that, and we've gotten pretty good over the last several months of not having to do that. Mm-hmm. And we feel pretty confident that we're not going to do that. We've put in some additional systems like blacklist systems to kind of catch potentially any economy destabilizing exploits. We have rollback capabilities if we need to do them. So there are a lot of safeguards in place to prevent that. But for sure, by the time we reach our commercial launch, we will have a full reset, full wipe, and then the commercial launch, we will kick that off, and that will be the start of the full progression line.
Awesome. And just to clarify for chat, in case you guys are curious, tomorrow is the early access, and historically, I feel like early access, when it first became a thing, it took honestly years before people got out of the feeling of, well, early access is launch. Well, at first people didn't really know. They were like, is it early access? What is that? I'm playing the game. And then it was like, okay, early access is an actual launch. But then I feel like in the last few years, the general sentiment towards early access has changed as, devs and studios just started being like, okay, if we're doing early access, we need to be very clear, like this is early access and everything is subject to change at any time. And then that way, people still, there's still some people that haven't really gotten accustomed to that. But I think people understand much better now than back in the day that, hey, early access is early access.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that, we are taking a unique approach, right? Mm-hmm. The way that we're building the game, the way that we are marketing the game, the way that we're exposing players to the game at this stage, it's not typical. We recognize that. We feel that it not being typical, there are actually a lot of strengths in that. Like I talked about, being able to iterate early, getting player feedback early, all of those things I think contribute. The other thing is that, we talked earlier about not a lot of these games get made. Not a lot of MMOs get made. Mm-hmm. We don't see a lot of them get released, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
They're risky. They are risky. They're very risky projects. And they're risky because they take a lot of time to build and mm-hmm. a lot of money. And because of that, you'll find that certain publishers or development studios, they don't want to take the additional risk of trying to do something innovative. Because that adds an additional layer of mm-hmm. concern to a board of investors or to, mm-hmm. A potential publisher. And as a result of that, we can see that innovation get stifled.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks. If you're a lover of this genre and you want to see more of these games and you want to see these games done a little bit differently, there's not really a financial outlet to ensure that the people capable of delivering these games have the opportunity to do so.
Right.
Because people just aren't putting money and time behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that we've taken both, the crowdsourcing approach that, we started in Kickstarter, although the majority of the financial backing for the studio is independent from yours truly. It is an opportunity, I think, for people who want to see this style of game and the more risky designs that we're using to be a part of bringing it to life as well. Mm-hmm. So, I see a lot of people saying, it should be free. It should be free on Steam. I shouldn't have to pay anything. It costs a lot of money to make this game. And it costs a lot of money to keep these servers up. And for the next year that we are going to have, this early access where we're refining things and completing that game, we want to invite people to participate. And we want to be able to, have them there, their voice there, them feeling that product But at the same time, we need support in order to bring this vision to life. That is an important aspect. Otherwise, we're just not going to see a lot of these games get made. Now, I understand the stigma that's associated with it because, Kickstarter and crowdsourced projects don't have a good reputation. There's a lot of jaded MMO gamers, and rightfully so. I remember when I was talking to Asman, I was like, as an MMO gamer, I feel like, a beaten dog, to some degree, right? Because like I get excited for something, I go and join the thing, and then it's a fucking rug pull, and they introduce some pay to win, element into the store, or completely destabilize, the game, and boom, now the population's gone or something, right? That sucks.
Yeah.
And if you want to make sure that a company that's led by a gamer who understands the importance of making certain creative decisions, I don't think you're going to find that in the boardroom of these large multi-billion-dollar corporations whose chief objective is to follow the market data in producing the safest possible game, not necessarily the game that's going to push the limits on what's possible. And that doesn't mean that our game is for everybody. Like, reality check, we have PvP in Ashes of Creation. That means by default, a large portion of the MMORPG demographic is likely not going to be interested in playing Ashes of Creation. But at the end of the day, there is a large enough group of people who want to see a PvX style MMO that it can support healthily a good game that's built with that design philosophy intact. And that is what we are banking.
Yeah. Well, actually, to that point, that's a great segue. I want to talk a little bit about PvP, the concept of PvX, not to be mistaken with Latinx or anything of that sort. PvX it's like PvP, PvE type of thing, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things where you're trying to go right down the middle with PvP and PvP type of content. Is that right?
Well, yeah. So let's talk about PvX. Well, what really is PvX, and how is it incorporated into our design philosophy? PvE is a state tree. Like everything you're doing in a PvE experience is a curated, designed state tree that some AI is behaving behind, right? So if the boss I'm fighting has a certain rotation of abilities that it's going to use, predicated on certain actions or activities of the players, or incorporating environmental hazards, like all of those things are pre-orchestrated and curated by a designer. And you can have a lot of fun and a lot of very difficult encounter design that's incorporated in that. Me personally, when I play games, I get a little bit bored of AI-driven behavior, right? I don't find them as compelling. It's hard to become emotionally invested in the response that a computer is giving me necessarily. I'm a big Civ player. I love Civilization. But I don't play Civilization against computers. I play Civilization against my friends, in a multiplayer environment.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because a human mind is unpredictable, right? The most dangerous game, is a human, so to speak. So when we think about how does PvP intersect with PvE, PvX is the marriage of those two things, right? It is the fact that you can keep a curated design for a PvE encounter. You can keep the elaborate raid bosses. You can keep the elaborate dungeons. You can incorporate really interesting and compelling curated designs in the game. And then you have a separate vertical that is dedicated to player threat. And player threat now becomes an important element that you have to consider, because players can interrupt, participate, compete with the objective or incentive or reward structure that you're pursuing by trying to complete that PvE content.
Okay.
So, for example, we have a Harbinger area that's being introduced as part of this December 11th early access. those Harbinger areas are basically massive comets that, impacted the world of Vera, and from which flowed, these ancients that are the primary antagonist of the story, these forgotten children of Vira, who is the goddess of creation. She turned her back on them because they pursued corruption, and now they're here to pervert every element of nature, right? These are the AI antagonists of the world that you're pursuing, to remove from Vera, the world of Vera. But they exist within a lawless territory, which means that players can fight each other in those areas as well. And the reward structures that exist within these dungeons or against these raid bosses, they need to be accomplished while also taking into consideration the friends or foes you've created in our non-faction based world. And that's the PVX element that we try to incorporate. It is a representation of risk, right? And risk is a way that you value reward or opportunity. It is a risk versus reward dilemma that we're trying to present to the player.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, like I'm a PvP player. If I'm playing an MMO and there's no PvP, I'm one of those people. I just tend to get bored. Right. That's the daily gameplay loop of me logging in to do like an arena, a battleground, world PvP, something like that. It's not to come in and do like quests and level a character and dailies and so that's not for me necessarily. So I'll do those things if it leads to that.
Yeah, if you inspect, exactly, that's right. If you inspect why it is that's the case for you, you are likely looking for an emotional investment. You want to dunk on someone, not something.
Right.
Not a piece of code.
Right.
You don't give a shit. The piece of code doesn't hate your guts because you beat their ass in an arena or something, right? But that other person on the side of the screen, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
And that gives you some degree of satisfaction, right? That is an emotional payoff.
Yeah. No,
which some might say is a little, some serial killer vibe. And it is. Like, I mean, it is in the vein of that gene to some degree, right?
I mean, I think it's just sometimes you want to like you want to play for something more than what's tangible, right? So like
correct.
The daily, like doing your dailies and stuff like that, that's like I want to give a good example of in Burning Crusade patch 2.4, they added the Sunwell and the Isle of Quel'Danas in classic in WoW, right? And whenever they added that, they added a daily quest hub in a contested area right outside of the brand new raid zone, which also right next to it had a new 5-man dungeon. So because this ended up turning into a hub where you had to leave Outland and go back through the old world, a lot of traffic. So I remember I would come home from school in that patch and I'd go do my dailies, and I'd be so excited to do my dailies because I was going to get to PvP while I was doing it.
Yes.
And you'd be fighting over those little spots, and it was great.
Perfect.
It was super fun.
Yes.
Now, it wasn't like that so much in classic 2021 whenever I played, but I mean, I just played the game a little bit differently then, right?
Right.
Different layers, servers, all that stuff. So with that being said, kind of having that sort of mentality and going into it like that, I think sounds really fun for somebody like me. Now, the concern, and this is a big reason why you were talking about how like PvP for a lot of people in the MMO genre is not super popular. Correct. I don't think that was the case years ago. Like whenever we first started playing MMOs, I don't really think that was the case, but it kind of became the case over time. And I think the key reason is because of people getting ganked, right? People just kind of maliciously PvPing as opposed to like PvPing for sport.
Well, yeah.
And you guys have the corruption system.
Right. You can't have a murder box. Meaning, when you put sharks and minnows together, there has to be some rules. There has to be some partitions. There needs to be some divides. And you have to have system support that allows for that coexistence or that synergy to exist between those two player groups. So, as you said, we do have a flagging system. So when you're in the open world and you're not participating in a system, right, that you've opted into, it is very, very limited that you're likely going to be killed by another player unless you choose to participate in that PvP. And what I mean by that is, if somebody were to just stroll up to you in the open world and you're not in a flagged area, and they were to murder you, they're going to become corrupt. And corruption is a score that they keep until they either die or they spend time working it off. Now, eventually, we'll have the bounty hunter system that complements corruption, and people can elect to become a part of the bounty hunter system. They'll be notified when that occurs and where those players are located, and they can hunt them down. And if a person's corrupt, they can potentially lose their gear, and gear is very difficult to earn, right? So it's a disincentivization of just murder hoboing.
Okay.
Right. So for the most part, that's going to leave players who choose not to opt in protected, meaning that like of their play experience, like less than 1% of their play experience is going to be getting murdered just out of the fucking blue.
Yeah.
And that I've experienced, I experienced that in L2. Right. And that was, that was the paradigm. You didn't often get PK'd. You didn't often get corruption in that situation. But
in
the
Lineage
risk
2?
was always there. Yeah, in Lineage 2. The
Okay.
risk was always there, though, which means that certain tense events, like I have a big trade run, or I've got a crate on my back, or I've acquired a relic, or I have a super rare material, like I'm going to be heightened senses now. And if I didn't have that threat behind me, I wouldn't be heightened senses. And what heightened senses does, it's a level of emotional investment. It's a level of emotional awareness. Right? When you walk out into an area where you can be killed, you're going to be more aware, and that's going to make the stakes a little bit higher. So it's in the backdrop, but it's not going to be prevalent. Now, the majority of PvP systems are opt-in. The vast majority of them are opt-in, meaning you can join a guild and there can be a guild war declared on you, right? And a guild war opens up. You're flagged now for fighting between those guilds. You're a citizen of a node or settlement, as we call them. And if you become a citizen of a settlement, that settlement can be participating in it can be sieged by other players, right? And you're choosing to go to that siege or not, or you're choosing to be a part of that settlement. We have castle sieges where you can be a part of, a castle siege if you're in a guild. There are lawless territories where you're not under the protection of PvP flagging rules, and you're automatically flagged. So like these, and we give incentive structures for why you would want to participate in those things, right? Like the lawless territories have unique material gathering that's relevant. They have higher reward structures in place. Castles are highly sought after trophy systems. Nodes are very important towards progression. All progression systems within the world, right? Settlements are very important for that. So like the idea is, how do we elicit the player behavior to want to go be part of these things? But it's on their choice. So that's a general kind of philosophy.
Okay. So to clarify, because I saw this a lot yesterday. I saw this in my chat. I saw this a little bit in the Ashes chat whenever I was watching your guys' interview, which again was super good. I was like locked in the whole time. It was great. Even as somebody who like isn't as deep cut into everything, it was super interesting to just kind of like, okay, like I want to play this. So I'm getting a lot of stuff that's like fun to listen to.
It was, you're totally right, by the way. That interview was like for the hardcore Ashes junkies, like people who are deep into the alpha. They're following development. They're not side-eyeing the game. They're like invested. They're participating. That's what that interview was for. But I'm glad that it captured your attention and elicited thoughts and stuff. But it was definitely in the woods for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was super good. Talking about like the settlements, so the node system. I mean, this is something. It was like one of the first things, like talking about the node system from years ago. But that includes what all does that include? It's the settlements, the towns.
Oh my god! How long is this interview? How long?
How long do you have? You got a game to launch in about like what? 13 hours.
Right now, it's the calm before the storm. We've got everything standing by. We're ready to push buttons. Like that's what it is. Now, when the fan starts running tomorrow and the shit hits it, that's going to be a different story. But right now it's calm before the storm.
There you go.
Okay, settlement system. Let me give you a real quick deep dive in settlement.
Okay.
Settlements are the backbone of our world dynamic. In traditional MMORPG structures, you have established cities. These are generally quest hubs. You progress through them, as you make your way down the MSQ. You have shit to do, and they give maybe different services depending on your progression.
Mm-hmm.
In Ashes of Creation, when you walk into the world on the first day, there are no cities. There are none. All those quest hubs, those services, they don't exist until players build them. And the way that players build them is from the starting areas, they acquire materials, they put them into construction crates, they take these crates to settlement locations, they kill monsters around those settlements, they gather resources around those settlement locations that you don't necessarily know of. And when enough things happen, you'll see a settlement propagate to the next stage.
Okay.
And the first stage of a settlement, is a wilderness. You don't see anything there, and then it moves from a wilderness into the first stage, which might just have a few NPCs, may have a couple of tents. Those NPCs now hook into some narrative structures around the points of interest around you. They might offer a vendor table or so. It's kind of unique to the space. Then it'll move into an encampment. And at the encampment, you're unlocking additional resources, additional vendor tables, additional services, and you're tying in, to more of the surrounding area for commissions to do and quests to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it reaches the village stage, the third stage, now you're bringing online player government. You can become a citizen of this particular settlement. When you become a citizen, you pay taxes. You eventually will be able to purchase a home within that settlement. We've recently disabled the freehold system, but we'll be re-enabling it in the next month or two, and introducing static housing as well as instance housing within these settlements.
Okay.
And at the village stage, these come online. You can elect a mayor. The mayor has agency over the types of commissions and quests that particular city is going to offer. That's important because it attracts players, and players give taxation, and taxes are how you fuel the settlement's development. Mayors select which buildings need to be constructed, and players have to contribute construction crates to those buildings in order to build them up. Those buildings have unique vendor tables and unique services within them. So you become invested as a player, even if you're not necessarily the mayor. But if you're a citizen of a settlement, you become invested in the successful outcome of that settlement and its progression, because it is a direct corollary to your power progression and your accessibility to the world. And then after the village stage, it can become a town. And then eventually it can become a city. And each of these steps, it's unlocking additional services, additional building types, additional, resources. Now it can house relics. It can establish trade agreements with other nodes. It can trade, build relationships and alliances, or it can go to war with other nodes. In a non-faction based game like us, it was important to create pseudo-faction systems.
Yes.
Meaning like ways for players to align themselves with other people and to create adversaries. Because again, if we talk about the emotional investment, you dunking on some person, outside of this cave, that's going to create animosity. It's going to create friction. And the pseudo factions give you a way to express that friction through some of the systems that we have, like guild wars and node sieges and stuff like that.
Can you set, like, is there like a set of like laws, like that are like not like non-RP, like mechanical laws for the settlements that you can set? Okay.
Yeah. So settlements are intended to have policies.
Okay.
Policy decisions get voted on by citizens and selected by mayors, and it uses an energy called mandate, which is predicated off of the election success of the mayor.
Okay.
Once that mayor institutes those policies, they can take effect, and they can radically change game rules under the purview of that particular parent in the vassalship structure. So settlements can take over or vassal other settlements, depending on. So, like, if you have two settlements next to each other, and one of them is progressing much faster than the other, it can vassalize the smaller settlement. And then it becomes essentially part of that nation, so to speak. Now, it'll get benefits and it'll get resources from the parent or the sovereign, And then there are opportunities for trade. There's opportunities for relics to be acquired and policies to be enacted that might change the dynamic of some of the rule sets within the area.
Okay, but these are like mechanical rule sets that are built into the game.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, sick. Hey, could you like secede?
No, you cannot secede, but you can renounce your citizenship.
Oh, okay.
And if you renounce your citizenship, you can go join an opposing settlement, and then you can lay siege to the settlement you dislike.
Okay.
But you have to orchestrate a lot of resources and players to participate in that siege. Eventually, we will introduce the destruction event, which is a part of settlements, and settlements can be, if they're successfully siege, destroyed. There are different types of siege scrolls. Not all siege scrolls can destroy a settlement. The ones that can are more expensive.
Okay.
But if orchestrated, players need to be prepared to understand that settlements can be rinsed and repeat. PvP is how you change the world, right? PvE is how you build it, and PvP is how you change it.
I like that.
So that is a paradigm that we, try to incorporate as part of our design philosophy.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Now, this all isn't in tomorrow, right? Just to clarify.
Well, much of what I'm discussing is in tomorrow. The destruction is not. Destruction will be likely not introduced until I would probably say February of next year. So about a couple months.
Okay, like a soft guess for February.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And for those of you who are not a part of the development cycle and don't tune into development discussions, be aware that I will often give you as much information as I can, and it can be hot off the press, and that can be subject to change. Why? Because at the end of the day, we're divided between two things. We're divided between future content development and feature development, but also servicing now a live service that is our alpha and early access starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So our resources get divided between those two. And we're not a massive multi-billion-dollar company, right? We don't have other, sources of revenue that are coming in to support this development. It is on the, shoulders of one person and the crowdsourcing that we have available as well. So in that regard, things can change. And yes, we do have over 250 developers at the studio in San Diego. We probably have another, I would say, anywhere from 60 to like 70 contractors that are working on the project as well. And we're making good speed. Like we're now in a place where we're making a good pace. But it's been a long journey.
Yeah. Hopefully, you'll have a lot of testers tomorrow too. So. A whole lot, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we haven't put much, we haven't done much marketing behind the early access announcement, and we did make the announcement. It'll be 4 weeks ago on Friday. But we have over 300,000, almost 300,000 wish lists now on Steam. And I expect that we'll probably be anywhere from 30 to 50,000 CCU tomorrow and or Friday. And then depending on how people receive the alpha and the early access, we could grow from there.
Yeah. I think I think it's really I'm getting hyped just like hearing all this, man. Like this is great. Yeah, dude. I think a lot of the stuff with like the settlements, how the nodes play out. Also like the idea of there's no factions. It's factionless. But you have like the kind of your own player made factions through the guilds and through the towns and stuff. So I started playing MMOs with Dark Age of Camelot, so I was used to like a 3-faction system at first, and then
love Dayak.
So good, and then going from that to like WoW's 2-faction system, I've always been like, dude, factions were sick. So whenever I hear there's like certain things that you hear like factionless, or like some games are like classless, and you like make your own class or whatever,
right?
And it's always like kind of off-putting to me because I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, like what's going on, but factionless doesn't mean no faction at all. What it really means is there's a ton of factions, and they're just player made and player mandated.
That's correct.
Which is, I think, super cool.
I mean that is leaning into the Sam Park design here. Is that, look, my favorite experiences and memories in games are not from, and this is no dig at any designer, but it's not from what designers curated. It like I remember when I played L2, I was like 18 years old. And I was sitting in Giron, which was a city, one of the big like trade hubs. and I went to DVC, Dragon Valley Cave, and I got into some altercation verbally with a party there. And I threw down and they threw down and we PvP'd each other. And then I called my friends and they called their friends.
Classic.
And we met outside of Garan and we would die and respawn and we would, just murder each other. Now L2, when you died, you lost 4% of your level. And if you got a res, you could get like 2%
even in
of that
PvP
back. Yeah, even in especially
my
in
gosh.
PvP. Are
Okay.
you kidding me? Especially in PvP. This
Frick.
was back during I think this was a prelude.
Okay.
So later on they changed that a little bit. They snowflaked it a little bit. But 4% at the time, right? And that was a super hardcore Korean grind fest. Like beyond Korean grind. In order to earn 4% at like max level at the time, you had to spend like 8 hours grinding in an XP spot. Anyway, so we had that fight that was going on outside of Garan. That fight lasted like 12 hours straight, and it was just nonstop. Get up, resurrect, go and fight for more. And I remember that event like it was yesterday.
Yeah, the real 12-hour war.
Like a straight 12-hour just fucking PvP event. And it was a lot of fun, right? And eventually that led to a 2-year-long, bipolar server of my alliance versus the enemy alliance and fighting at sieges constantly. And it was a lot of fun. Like,
yeah,
I went to a Comic-Con I think like a year after that. And I was sitting in line at NCSoft's booth, and they were like, "Oh, you play L2?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I play L2." And they're like, "Who are you?" And I thought to myself, a moment that they asked me that, shit, if I say my name, this person's either going to hate me or going to love me. I'm either going to get murked at this convention, or I'm going to make a new friend.
That's amazing.
That's essentially what happened. And then later, I was playing Arcage, and this is like 10 years ago or so. And in Arcage, they had a Kraken that was a world boss that you had to fight over out in the open sea, right? It's all open flagging. And that was a faction-based game. But we had like hundreds of people. There was a 22-hour-long fight that was just all ships fighting each other, trying to compete against one another to take the Kraken raid boss. I went to bed in the middle of that fight. I told my guild, I was like, I'm going to go sleep for 2 hours. I'll be back. If we're still killing each other, we're good. And I came back and we're still fighting. I mean,
Amazing.
Those are the types of like experiences that you really cannot replicate as a designer.
Yeah.
And you need to develop systems as the designer that give the tools to the players to repro those types of experiences, because those are what's going to live with those players forever.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think back to like some of my like just memorable things that happened in classic WoW, 2004, 2005, that did not happen again in 2019 or 2020. And now I had a lot of fun in 2019, 2019 and 2020 as well. But it was a different kind of fun, because just the times have changed, things have changed. And you're right, it's hard to like replicate that. And back then, some of those great moments, they kind of happened on accident. And
absolutely.
Since
100%.
then, people have found a way to work around it and min-max and all this, which is, I mean, I'm sure that's going to end up being a big challenge for you guys too, is people going through in the age of information with wikis and, the guides. YouTube is huge now. When we first started playing MMOs, YouTube wasn't even a thing yet.
I know.
So all this stuff, live streams, right? We're on a live stream.
Right.
All this stuff, information travels instantaneously. So
all those channels that you're talking about are really just social reinforcement structures. There are ways for us to connect, listen, hear, talk to other people. And at the end of the day, an MMO is really just a byproduct of that social connection. One of the things that I find difficult to enjoy in modern MMO design is the emphasis on solo gameplay. While I think there should be ways for players to progress solo, because we always don't have time to get in a group and do the more elaborate aspects of it, but design should be pushing you to those social interactions. They should be incentivizing you to make friends, develop groups, build guild structures, be a part of citizenships, join social organizations. Like ultimately, it is a massively multiplayer role-playing game, not a role-playing game.
True.
You know, those two things have to live together with one another. So another emphasis that we, try to incorporate as part of our central tenets and design philosophy is building systems with that in mind. How do we help players become social or engage with one another? And it's not through, a group finder, it is actually through presenting them with challenges that make them think, okay, shit, how do I get around this? And how can I engage with other people that are going to help me to that end?
Right. And you need some kind of you need a little bit of friction, because I feel like in gaming these days, the design teams are so focused on reducing friction. But when you reduce friction, you want to get into something easy, well, you're going to slide right out too. So
absolutely,
just like in real life, like real friction, if you work a little bit to get into something, then you might not want to throw it away like nothing, because it's like, okay, then I have to go through that whole process again. So I'll stick around, I'll tough it out.
Absolutely.
And Group Finder is like a great example of that, right? Where somebody is like, okay, this group sucks, and then they just leave and they'll just queue again.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's that relationship of risk and reward. If there's no risk, and risk being the time spent or the friction or whatever, then the reward feels lackluster. It was not an accomplishment to achieve that thing, so to speak. And I think that a lot of companies, a lot of developers, a lot of games, they look to mitigate that friction because it's an opportunity to lose the player. But I think what they don't stop to take an inspection point in is, was that player our audience to begin with? Were they our audience to begin with? Now, any marketing person, any board member is going to come and say, everybody's our audience. We want all the players that we can get. What are you talking about? That's fucking crazy. Who is this guy? Get him out of the boardroom. Like that's what they're going to say.
Right.
But what happens when you take that philosophy and you incorporate it in a game design setting is you end up with the cookie cutter style of game, and everything becomes a blur of the same shit. And there's no innovation because they're all appealing to the largest demographic.
Right. And everybody ends up trying to make the same game. And then you're trying to make the same game, you're trying to beat, you're trying to fulfill a role and beat another game that's already there. And then it's just, you're never going to do that. You're never going to have a Final Fantasy 14 killer or a WoW killer that is just 14 or just WoW, for example.
Totally.
That's not what it is.
Absolutely, and it shouldn't be your target goal.
Right.
Your target goal should be to identify who your golden cohort is. Who is your audience?
Mm-hmm.
And then you build the design around that audience.
Yeah.
Not outside of that audience, not to capture everyone, because then you don't have anyone, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? So what we do is we hone in on this PVX philosophy, risk versus reward, the no pay to win, the no pay to convenience. That is what we try to focus in on in our and sandbox design, dynamic world. Like those are our tenets. That's what we try to develop.
Yeah. So a lot of times people talk about like old school gamers, or like, let's say somebody's like a really sweaty MMO player who's like just a guy who's like a parse lord, always trying to push the numbers and min max everything. It seems like Ashes isn't so much of a sweaty game. It's not a sweat lord game, but it's more of a gritty game where it's like, I want to play the kind of the old school, I want that friction. I want to do things a little bit like, back in my day, we never had no group finder, none of that,
Yep.
And that's something that a lot of games don't try and do nowadays.
Correct. Yes.
And I think that's like a super good lens to look at the game through. It's like, okay, if this is the kind of thing that you like, if you want a little bit of a heavier investment,
Correct.
then maybe you'll get more out of it. You mentioned something. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Please go ahead.
I was gonna mention something that you mentioned last night whenever I was watching. You talked about respecting people's time. You talked about respecting the gamer's time. And a lot of times, I think whenever people hear about having your time respected, you think, okay, I don't want this to take too long. I don't want this to take a long time. I want to be able to do something easy. I want to log in and immediately do this. But I think there's two kind of facets to having your time respected. There is, okay, I don't want to sit around doing nothing forever, but also the time that I do spend doing something, I want it to mean something. I want to get somewhere with it. And I think that's something that I wish more designers would kind of be looking at that phrase in that way.
Well, what I tried to communicate there is, the same philosophy that our design team tries to follow, which is, when you're pitching an idea or a system, or you're writing out the GDD for a particular system, you need to take into context, what can I do in an hour and what can I do in 10, right? Or whatever you want that spread to be. Now, what that means is, from an investment standpoint, when you're talking about like, this is a grittier game, this is, more investment, we have a lot of systems that have big payoffs after a lot of time is spent. But when you build those systems, you should be building it with checkpoints that you can feel completion or achievement along the way to the big payoff.
Right.
So, it's not an exponential, graph here. It's not a linear line. It is a step ladder. You're taking steps, and those steps should correspond to play sessions to some. If I have an hour or 2 hours to play, and I'm a more casual gamer, but I enjoy the grittier, heavier investment game or the more old school dynamic, I want to make sure that I can feel like I have completed a step along the way of that big payoff. I don't need to get the big payoff in the hour or two. And that's what I think a lot of modern design tries to do. You get the big payoff in an hour or two, and that then disrespects the time of the heavier investors.
Right.
Right. Now there's a balance there. There's no right or wrong, design choice in this sense. They're just different types of games. And there are different people that prefer different style of games. We're very upfront about the type of game that we're trying to build. Ours is a more old school, beckoning design philosophy. And we're honest about that. Like, if you prefer more modern design, Ashes may not be a game for you, and that's okay. But if you want to go back to, a little bit more of the kind of glory days of your, and you may not like the glory days, to be honest with you. I've had a lot of friends of mine who are like, yeah, I'm going to play classic and I'm going to do this. And then they're like, oh, fuck that shit. I don't got time for that. Nobody got time for that.
Right? You think you do. Oh no, not again. Not again. No, that does happen 100%. It's sometimes the memory of something is different than, actually going into it. So
totally. 100%.
I want to ask about something. One of my old guildies asked me this. They said, "Hey, can you ask about like, what if they wanted to play this is the example they give. They said like they want to be Walter White, okay? And they're basically like a crafting consumable kingpin, right? How what kind of is that a gameplay experience that they could reasonably have? Basically
100%.
Okay, not trying to PvP or not trying to do anything. Like, kill as little as possible, like a pacifist who just, hey, I'm just do consumes, man. That's it.
So crafting in Ashes is crafters make the best shit in Ashes.
Okay.
And we've had some resets with the economy. We've had to take some iteration on the economy in order to achieve that goal. We may still need to do some iterations, but the design philosophy is that crafters make the best shit.
Okay.
And that is an investment. And it's not just an investment, but it is a skill ceiling that people who find themselves a part of the trading community, forging relationships with other crafters, you cannot be a master of all. There is some synergy between how nodes progress, how governments elect to build certain buildings, how policies interact with that, how relics need to be acquired for that, how resources are acquired within different parts of the world, how you trade those resources and move those resources. Resources can be dropped on death as well.
Okay.
Right? Like, if you have a material inventory that's different than your item inventory. And material inventory is is subject to potential loss on
Mhm.
death. Now you can get better bags to increase like stacking values and quantity that you can carry. You can get better tools that proc, higher rarity resources that then create higher, rarity equipment, and you can start cornering markets, even local markets. Like, there is me personally, I'm a huge like trade person.
Uh-huh.
The games that I played and the games that I loved was owning certain markets and exerting pressure on the value of those goods within the market and manipulating the market. That was a lot of fun. That's how I acquired, a lot of times a lot of gold for our guild, and how we could do a lot of things was because, we had an entire engineering core section that was like hundreds of people deep, and they all had different focuses and like lands that they had to manage and farms and resources that they gather, like a little bit on spreadsheet steroids. Maybe that's not for those people, but but to some degree there is the availability to do that here.
Okay. That's sick. Yeah, just being able to like play the game in a bunch of different types of ways, I think is super important, because there's I mean, everybody wants to do something different. It's not as simple as just gameplay and combat, right? Where you have like your tank, healer, DPS. And I did have some people ask, and this is just to clarify, this is like a traditional, you have like your tank, healer, DPS type of scenario in this game.
Yes, we are a Holy Trinity style of game. We currently have all 8 of our archetypes within the early access. So that's Summoner, Bard, Mage, Cleric, Rogue, Ranger, Tank, Fighter. And then eventually we will be introducing the class system, which stands, aside of the archetype system, where you will select from those 8 archetypes again, and that will give you abilities to, create your class, and you'll have class fantasy abilities that relate to that, and you can augment the core abilities. But we are a traditional, Trinity system. And we balance around group v group, not 1v1.
Right.
So in that sense, it's more of like a rock paper scissors design for 1v1. And there are 40, our raids are 40 people deep. So raid content, you need to acquire, 40 people. Our group size is 8. So you have to, there are different types of ways to cut that group depending on the content that you're trying to complete.
Which I think, by the way, this is my opinion, way better approach doing it through like a group balance as opposed to like a 1v1 balance. Like something I'm just gonna talk about like Classic WoW for a second, because that's where I have the most experience. Something that happens in Classic WoW that historically a lot of people talk about, like Classic WoW is rock paper scissors, and it's, if you 1v1, it's like this class beats this class, which that class beats that class. But what happened over the years is people started to figure out the meta, and they figured out different things that they can do and play the game. It's like, oh, this game is actually like way more balanced. It's not 100% perfectly balanced, but it's way more balanced in PvP, not so much in PvE, but in PvP than we originally thought, because of things like crafting with engineering and just having other consumables and stuff like that, which it seems like Ashes might have a little bit of that too, with how big of an emphasis there is on crafting and just being able to get different sort of items outside of just your class alone to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. So we let people fail. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of customization that's possible. From your item tree selection and progression, you can choose from your passive skill trees that you can invest in, from your weapon skill trees that you can invest in, your active abilities, like there's a limited selection of skill points that you can spec out. And if you wanted to build like the super glass cannon, and not have any sustain whatsoever, like that is possible. There's a high level of customization there. We don't try to keep a high floor, meaning like, keeping everybody kind of at a base, value, so to speak. We let players fluctuate that very significantly, to the point where if they don't do well in that design, in that strategy, they could spec themselves out of being efficient in certain settings. And we think that's okay, right? Like that there is a skill ceiling to strategy.
Yeah, player agency.
You know, it's not all tactical. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you can make a bad decision if you want. You can understand, hey, this is a bad decision, but go make it anyway, and then you can kind of adjust your gameplay off of that. I think that's great. I think it's super cool because
Totally.
That's the way that I play most games, is by making the worst decisions I can. So,
and again, like if you think about other projects, other companies, other products, that is a friction point.
Yeah.
If you let somebody build themselves into a hole, they might just give up and be like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, they try.
Right,
like you need to protect the players, but sometimes they do it too much, and they never take the training wheels off. So then it's like, 100%. Okay, well now I got the training wheels on, so like I can't do certain things that I really would like to do to really try and push the limits. So yeah, no, I think that's a super cool way of looking at it. Let me see. I had another question here that a friend of mine asked. This is a friend of mine, Sardako, was. So, we come from classic WoW. There's a heavy botting problem, and if you don't want to talk about it too much, because
no, that's okay. We can talk about it.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is, it's a cat and mouse game with these kinds of things where you don't want to maybe you don't want to give out all your methods of how you're going to stop bots, but this is clearly something you guys have thought about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, the bottom line is that where there is demand and interest, you will always have a counter push to our efforts.
Mm-hmm.
That's always going to be a thing. Maybe there will come one day where advancements in AI, being able to leverage behavioral metrics to, better identify suspicious activity and or suspicious transactions,
Mm-hmm.
Brings that level of accuracy up to a point where it really diminishes the capabilities of bad actors to engage on that front. I do believe that is around the corner from a development perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side of that coin, you're then going to have the opposite push from their end, utilizing the same tools, but perhaps it might be some lag in order to accomplish that.
Yeah.
What I will say is that we obviously try to be as cognizant as possible of RMT, of botting, and even in our alpha, for the past year, I think we've taken permanent ban actions against over 1,000 different accounts.
Nice.
So what's front and center in my mind as being a player first perspective is that I need to protect the integrity of the play space, because at the end of the day, any progression based game where the player's time needs to be respected, their investment needs to be respected, their accomplishments need to be protected. This is one of the primary spokes that the company must invest, not just at a technology standpoint, in ensuring we have the proper tool sets and ensuring that we have the proper business intelligence and analytics and things that we can act on, but from a CS perspective, from a game team perspective, from a community management perspective. And I will say that, when you're balancing the development of the core feature systems and the core content systems, with that in mind, we have invested a lot of time in ensuring that we have the proper tools and the personnel to address those issues. And we haven't always hit the right mark in balancing that during our alpha. We've been very focused on ensuring systems development has been in a place where we want it to be. But now that we are entering Steam, we have brought online some additional systems there. We have, easy anti-cheat as a system that we use as well. And we feel pretty confident. In the tools that we have available to us, and we're going to continue to invest in those because, like I said, protecting that integrity is at the end of the day what keeps the play space important to the player, feeling like they can get a return that's not going to be undermined by some cheater.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, inevitably it's going to be difficult with, you're still building out the game, and that's the whole thing. So you can't it seems like you can't commit everything in the world to try and stop it, but you're doing the best you can, because it's going to be, if it's not, I mean, it is an issue and it's only going to get worse over time, but hopefully the development is going to continue getting better for like the different tools and stuff to be able to stop it. So yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. My philosophy there is that the tools developers have over this next decade will be faster in implementation than the tools that the bad actors will leverage in response. So there might be a little bit of a golden era in how we address, so long as the company's willing to invest in that, right? And we are in that. I believe there's going to be a little bit of a golden era, kind of an eye of the storm moment where, the tools significantly surpass the abilities of the bad actors to respond.
Okay. You mentioned Steam. You decided to, hey, we're gonna kick off early access with the Steam release. I think, and I want to clarify a couple things because I may be wrong. Whenever you first mentioned it, originally there was no plan to do an account merge, but now you can do an account merge. Is that right?
Yeah. If you we have millions of pre-registrations on our website. And we have a little over 150,000 testers that have purchased into our alphas and betas. And if you're one of those people that has an account, you can do a direct entitlement through your account page on the Intrepid Studio, on the Ashes of Creation website. That will direct entitle your Steam account and link your Steam account so that then you will play from Steam.
Nice.
And we're deprecating our launcher for the time being and going solely through Steam.
Okay. So that's the game plan. So then if you're deprecating it, then they're going to have to do that.
That's correct. Yes, that is correct.
So just for anybody who maybe you got in early and you hadn't touched it in a while, and you can't log in or you can't find out how to do it, you need to go to the Intrepid website and do it through, hook it up to your Steam, and then you log in through Steam from now on. Cool.
Yes, and I do recommend that anybody who does have an account that they try to do it before tomorrow.
Yeah, do that tonight. Do that now.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, we sent out reminder emails. I think of the 150,000 people who own access to the alpha and beta, we've gotten around 40,000 or so that have already direct entitled, but that leaves about 110,000 that are still outstanding to link their account.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. So I think that's good to hear. I think because a lot of people had questions about that. I saw that was still like a point of discussion. It was like, well, didn't they say, didn't this, didn't that? So cool. Got that clarified. As far as somebody asked a good question. I'm looking at my notes here because somebody asked a good question. I lost it that I want to go over. Well, I'll find it later. We'll go back to that in a second. And I'll just say so deciding to go to Steam, that was like, how did that decision kind of come into play? Moving away from having your own launcher.
So, as I said, from an open development standpoint, when you're done creating a product, the ability to change that product is exponentially more difficult. And we have had a phenomenal community that has accompanied us to this point and gotten us to this point through their feedback. I mean, if you remember when you played in Alpha 1, our combat system was completely different.
Yes.
Our network layer was completely different. We had to rebuild that entirely. And we were only able to do that in a way that, took into account the feedback we had from our community, because we had people present during that testing period who were participating in the play testing. So our philosophy and why we felt it was appropriate to go to Steam now was that we had just entered phase 3 of Alpha 2.
Okay.
Which is we launched this alpha on October 24th of 2024, and we have now been in it for over a year. And we are approaching a point where the ability for us to iterate on systems and loops within the game becomes far more difficult because, one, the interconnectivity between all the systems within the world, but two, because as we move into polishing those things, there's a lot of work that comes with polishing those things. We don't want to polish something that needs to be iterated on. So, we've always heard, two main points of negative feedback from the community. It's taking too long and it costs too much to participate in the alpha and or the betas. And we wanted to address those in a way that allowed for people who were waiting on the sidelines to participate in our development journey because of either the cost or the accessibility. We wanted to present them with an option that allowed them now an easier way to engage through Steam and at a price point that was more reasonable, given the state that we are in and the type of individual that being at $49.99 is going to attract. There is a natural barrier that exists when the price to enter is at $100 or higher. Right. And those people are likely, and this is nothing, it's not a dig at people who don't want to participate in that. Active development and supporting a product in development like this is not everybody's cup of tea. We get that. We understand that. I've constantly said, if you do not want to participate in supporting the game, in supporting its development, or participating in the alpha, we don't put an NDA on it. You can watch a streamer. You can give your opinions through that as well. This may not be your cup of tea, and that's okay. We get that. But now it's more accessible, and now it is at a price that, in my opinion, and as at a stage in phase 3, where the product is more corollary to an experience that is enjoyable and has, hours and hours of content, and allows that player to also participate in the ultimate fruition of the product. So that's why we kind of went to Steam, and we thought that December is a great month to do it. People have time off. We've seen, this year has really been shitty for the MMORPG genre.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because, as a gamer, as a player, as a lover of this genre myself, I have watched projects that have been canceled.
Yeah.
That had big backing, that had the backing of multi-billion-dollar corporations.
Yeah, Ghost.
NetEase pulled funding for Ghost's project. They pulled funding for the Warhammer 40K MMORPG. And I'm not, this is not a dig at
it's just the reality of
projects.
Business.
It's just the reality of the market.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate that. That sucks. It sucks for a multitude of reasons. Yeah. One, because as a consumer, I don't get those products now in a genre that already is lacking, new content and new games that are going to push the boundary. But also as a fellow human being who knows that there are people whose livelihoods depended on this genre getting the, monetary support from the, VCs or the strategics or the publishers to build these types of games to begin with. And it's all from a place of fear. I mean, the industry right now is roiling from a few things. We had an investment bubble that happened post-COVID that deflated when those projects didn't come to fruition. That pushed some of the investors back, and some of the publishers back. We have an AI, revolution that's happening right now in the way that these products are made. That's completely upending the pipeline. We have a global job market that's pushing development outside of Western studios, towards cheaper, job markets. And those all have deleterious effects on the genre that we love. Like I can find, 100 people to work in Malaysia and develop, this game at maybe half the cost of a Western development studio, but they're not going to have the cultural context that helps them inform the systems that they're building or the content that they're creating. And this is not a dig at them. I mean, they're going to be great for their particular culturalization and what their market might be interested in. But I'm a Western developer. I'm interested in building for a Western audience to some degree as well. And I think that's important. AI, whether you hate AI or love AI, that train has left the building. It is halfway to Mars right now. There's no stopping it. Sure, there might be some legislative, action that happens at some point in either EU or North America, that might put some safeguards and rails on, IP concerns. But that is transforming the industry right now.
Yeah.
So we're in a little bit of a dark spot, I think, as an industry. And it's important that we, as consumers of these products, show our support for risk takers, for new endeavors, for projects that are trying to create something that push the limits or the genre. And it might, and again, it might not be your cup of tea. You might not be a PvP player. You might be a solely PvE player, or you might be 100% PvP player. Like, regardless, we all benefit. All ships rise with a rising tide.
Yeah.
Right. And the more that these games have opportunities to be developed, to attract developers to build them, the more beneficial it is for us as a consumer market. We want these things. So we should be supportive of these things.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's brutal because a lot of people, I feel like it's a very surface level sort of way to look at things whenever people look at competition as only competition, right? As something that can take away from what you're doing. Because in reality, it's super tribal. It's not good. I mean, it's funny because even with MMORPGs, you have this sort of there can only be one mentality. But what we've learned over the course of, the 30, 40 years that MMOs have now existed, it's been about 40 years now, right? Close to, right? If you're going back to your old Neverwinter days.
It's been 35 years, almost 40 years.
Yeah. So if you look at that, there's a bunch of different types of MMOs. Old school
100%.
RuneScape is not like classic WoW. They're two completely different genre of MMO, which is going to be completely different than Ashes, which is completely different than Retail, which is completely different than 14. They're just all different, right? Yep. And whenever you have these other studios that they're not willing to take the risk, or they get scared and they pull, right? And they're like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We don't think this is going to work out. It's bad for the whole genre. So some game has to come in and say, hey, MMOs are not dead. There's just not one that has hit yet with the right people.
I fully believe that the golden age of MMOs is nowhere near where we are yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the advancement in multiplayer tech and in networking layer, in the types of tools that can create these things, like that golden age is I think we're on the precipice of it, to be honest with you. I saw a commenter in chat that said, let's be real, these projects being canceled is a benefit for us. And it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's super not.
It is not. It is literally the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that type of commentary is the tribalism being pervasive in the thought pattern that's not good. And we should try as members of this community to push against that when we see others do it. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, advancements in technology, success of this genre, more developers that are interested in pursuing this line of work and path of work, like those things will give us more opportunities as consumers to play the games we love. Mm-hmm. And there's no amount of games that's too many in the MMO space. There's no amount of game that's too many. I mean, we are in a dry spell right now. We need more.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, I'm gonna point to another genre that is a prime example of this. If you look at the roguelikes or roguelites or the survivor type games, Vampire Survivors came out, and I remember, I think the first time I saw Vampire Survivors, I think I was watching McConnell play it, and I just remember hearing McConnell say, "This game has no right being as good as it is." And it looks like it's a Super Nintendo game. It's insane, and it got huge, right? Vampire Survivors blew up, and then you had these other Survivors games coming out. Even for our publishing company, Mad Mushroom, we just released a Survivor game, and it's not if Vampire Survivors didn't take off the way it did, and then if other games came out afterwards that 100%. Didn't take off the way they did, then okay, well that genre is now dead, so to speak. It's like 100%. People don't like this game because people aren't willing to take the risk. But now you have all these indie developers coming in. They're like, yeah, I'll make this game. I've got a great idea. Yes. I've got a Megabonk. I've got a Balatro. And these games are taking over. They're owning super hard.
And those ideas fuel other ideas, right? The competition breeds innovation.
Yeah.
Right? That is a good thing. You take inspiration from these ideas and you change them and innovate on them and you create something new. So competition is healthy. it is what is desired to continue the genre moving
Yeah.
forward.
No, it's super, super, super important. So, no, hopefully, like that's one of the things that Ashes does is it gives people a little bit of confidence in MMOs. You know, if there's excitement around something, if people are playing something, you know, heck, even like RuneScape, old school RuneScape had a little bit of a renaissance recently, and had like a big influx of new players.
Yes,
you know, and
you know why? Because they're focusing on being very community driven.
Yeah.
Like they are 100%, Jagex is a company that focuses on, you know, keeping a consumer centric, community focused engagement. And they're enjoying the benefits of that.
Yeah. They know their audience. Kind of like how you said, well, this is kind of a niche MMO. I think every MMO should look at their game as like, yeah, this is a niche MMO. And it's not that, okay, well, their MMO has a small scope, but there are so many different types of scopes that you could choose from when you design a game that you just got to pick yours instead of trying to pick multiple, and which kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, know your audience.
Yeah.
Like that's 101. You know, if you don't know who your audience is, then you don't have, you know, a product to sell. And at the end of the day, if you are your audience, then you know exactly the type of product you want to make. And that I think is one of the greatest strengths that, you know, we have at Intrepid is we are our audience. We, you know, one of the interview, I interview every single person that joins the company. Every single person that has ever joined the company has gone through an interview. And my question is always, what's your favorite MMO? What's your favorite MMO? I mean, among many other questions, what's your favorite MMO and why? You know, what are the experiences you can talk to me about within that MMO? And, you know, can you build an MMO and not be an MMO player? 100%. You totally can.
Yeah.
But you're doing it at a disadvantage from the person who can do your job and is also an MMO lover who can rely on the experiences that they have. Now, a vision unifies those experiences because we all come from different walks, different pasts, different, you know, what has informed our MMO gameplay. It's a very eclectic genre. And that's why having a strong, you know, individual vision holder is important to make sure we're all beating the same drum to the same end. But at the end of the day, you can then leverage those varieties of experiences to further enrich the design that you're trying to incorporate, especially for a game like Ashes.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love the way that you're looking at it. I think it's exciting. I remembered what the question from earlier that somebody brought up, and I was like, oh, I should ask about this. What class should I play? No, I'm just kidding. so no, but actually, you have these different archetypes. And you have 8 archetypes, and then you pair it with another archetype. This will not be in yet. Is that right? It'll be in eventually, but not tomorrow.
That is something that literally we are starting next milestone. So we're going to be likely introducing a limited subsection of our augment system. If not at the end of the next milestone, very quickly into the milestone thereafter. But right now you have 8 base archetypes that go to level 25. You know, they have an average of about, I would say, 20 or so abilities, active abilities, and then probably another, on average, 15 to 20 passives that you select from. And that doesn't include your weapon skill tree or your stamina skill tree, which are different skill trees. Okay. So it changes entirely whenever you pick your subclass and your secondary class to make your new class. So the intent there behind that system is that when you pick your subclass, you retain your active abilities. Okay. But now you get a whole new scope of augments that can change that ability. And it might change things like, you know, the distance, the mana cost, the damage output, the damage type. It might add new rider effects like stuns and slows. It might dramatically change the ability. So, you know, you could be a tank that has, you know, a shield charge, right? And the tank's base ability is you charge a target X distance and upon impact deal some, you know, damage amount. And if you're a mage, you might have access to a teleportation node on that ability, which now instead of charging that distance, you teleport instantly to the target.
Right.
and when you use your shield charge. Or you might have an elemental node that when you charge that target, it leaves a trail of fire or ice behind you that has a lingering AoE effect
Right.
for targets that move over it.
Yeah.
That's the intent behind the secondary system.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say like you're if you're a fighter, you want to go fighter and then cleric, you're a high sword. I think I saw.
Right. Yes.
And then instead of having like you'd have a strike, and then instead of it being physical damage, it could be like a holy type of damage.
Yeah. You could change the damage subtype.
Okay. So what's the most ret paladin like class? Retribution. Because I was looking last night. I'm like, okay, high sword. They have an actual paladin if I go tank, but I mean, I'm not really like, I want to use the big two-hander, right? I want to run in there and just like smack somebody. But then again, you remember in the last beta or last alpha, I played a bard and I'm like, frick, dude, bard is so freaking fun.
Dude,
so
Bard's a lot of fun, man. That's a tough choice.
Yeah,
That's a tough choice. I mean, it sounds like you're thinking about fighter, bard, maybe tank.
Yeah, maybe cleric too.
Maybe even cleric. So if those are your four types, those are four very different play styles.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. That's tough. Make all four.
Super tough. Yeah, I mean, it might end up happening. So I think it was like cleric fighter was Templar, I think. Is that right? Or was it, cleric fighter is Templar, and then paladin was tank cleric, high sword was fighter cleric, bard was, I can't remember what the bard combos were, but man, I just remember I made a bard because I was like, oh, this will be like kind of me. Like I'm playing the instrument. I'm like, dude, this
bards,
is sick,
bards
dude.
are a
I'm
lot
like
of
ripping
fun.
chords, doing a ton of damage, and I was like, this is sick. I'm like rolling around, power slide. Yeah.
And bards are like, a critical desire for a lot of parties. Because they have mana upkeep, they can give some like partial anti-gravity abilities, so you can get to interesting places to your party. They can apply a temporary HP shield and stuff around them.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, like when you dunk on your opponents, when you're just fucking zipping around and you're playing music and shit, like that's ultimate meme territory. So
exactly. Exactly. So how many character slots will there be?
There are 5 character slots.
Okay, so I think I'm good. Okay, sick. I've always, every time I play a game, I'm always a one character type of guy. Like I've always just like, I'm this. This is what I am. This is my entire identity is this thing. But I think I was like that because I play a paladin in classic WoW is a hybrid, right? You can tank, heal, DPS.
Right.
So I think that's where that comes from, is I liked doing like kind of being an everything bagel. I'm kind of like that in real life. Huge mistake. Don't think that's a good idea. You end up just being bad at everything.
Yeah. Well, a bard, what they say about bards.
Well, what do they say about bards?
They are a jack of all trades.
That's true. Yeah, I might end up barding it up then. We'll see. Yeah, I'm excited, man.
Our bard was an archetype that was designed by our resident designer, Dr. Bucky, and I will say that there are a lot of people in the community that really enjoy Bucky's cooking.
Okay.
So he did a good job with bard.
Yeah. Okay. So man, tomorrow's gonna be that character selection, character creation is gonna be rough. I'm just gonna be sitting there. There's been some talk. I hear what server. This is people asking me a question. What server am I gonna play on? You can get the server list from the starting guide. There's an early access guide on the website, right?
Yes. Yep. We just I think it was today or yesterday. I can't remember when. But we released an article. We had originally planned to do 2 realms in EU and 2 realms in NA, but we've adjusted that given the number of Steam linking that we've seen going on, and it might be adjusted again, obviously, the day of. We're going to keep a close eye on that and be adding additional realms based off of total, realm concurrencies for those as they load up and the queue sizes that we have. We do expect there to be some significant queues, obviously, this, tomorrow and into the weekend.
Yeah, 10 a.m. PST, right?
Yep.
And there's no. Actually, I opened up the Steam page. Yeah, I went ahead and I went ahead and opened up the Steam page. Can you not buy it on Steam right now?
No, not yet. No, we, Valve does not traditionally allow pre-download or pre-order for early access titles.
That's
so,
what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Gaben, we need Gaben to hold strong whenever.
We couldn't get a hold of Gaben. We heard he was on his yacht. And I tried to give Gaben a call and say, Gaben, help. But no, it didn't work.
No. Okay. Well, unfortunately not. Maybe. Yeah. Oh, we'll see how it goes. I'm so like, man. So, well, if you have the game. So is everybody gonna have to do that tomorrow? Like if you have the game already? Okay, so you're gonna have to re-download everything.
You're
right?
gonna have to re-download everything,
Oh,
and it's gonna be an equal starting point at 10 a.m. It's gonna be available, and your download speed is gonna be your head start.
Dude, I gotta call freaking Spectrum, get 10 gig internet or something tomorrow. I gotta get in
and
there.
I'm gonna be honest with you, we kind of like that on our end.
It's kind of funny.
It leaves a little bit of trickle speed, right? Like we don't have like at the very moment like everybody's hammering the servers, login servers.
Yeah, good point.
They're going to trickle in.
Yeah, really, really good point. It is going to trickle in to the game instead of just all of a sudden everybody opening up at once. Okay, man.
And I will say, be patient with us. Like I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. Even among the big players and the multi-billion-dollar corporations, I don't know any MMO, de facto kind of, launch or alpha big launch or whatever, land that initial thing super well. We may experience some issues.
It's the
just
reality.
Putting that out there.
It
is the reality of the genre and of the population that we're, trying to service. So just give us a little bit of grace if some things go haywire. We're going to be on the other end of it trying to fix everything.
I think at a certain point when you've done this so long, that stops being I hope this doesn't happen to, well, this is the expectation. So if it doesn't happen, then that's a good thing.
Yes.
But if it does happen, it's like, well, it's just supposed to happen at this point in my own head. So yeah, super, man, I'm so unbelievably excited for tomorrow. What is the number one thing you're excited about for tomorrow? It's been 10 years. It's not full launch. It's early access. It's coming to Steam.
No. Yeah.
But what's your favorite thing, or the number one thing you're looking forward to?
I am excited to have conversations like these, and what I mean by that is, we have had a very dedicated golden cohort of an audience who have been knee deep in the designs of Ashes. They know it almost as well, if not better sometimes than I do. they're like, wait a minute. We have a wiki that's maintained by Lex, who's, God save this man's soul. He's a blessing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information there. And it's been a while since I have had these types of conversations that are more cursory, that are more, surface level kind of what's the game about, kind of conversation. And I'm getting my sea legs back, talking about it from a high level perspective rather than down in the deepest of weeds of the individual systems, So I think that's kind of what I look forward to as I'm getting back into let me sell the vision. Let me talk to you guys about how we're trying to be different. Let me, get you to understand our goals from a design philosophy perspective and excite you on the potential of what Ashes can become so that you want to be a part of that journey, whether it's playing the game or just watching from the sidelines and giving a voice to your thoughts and your experiences. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we don't have an NDA. That's why we're not building this thing in secret, for some ultimate reveal. It's so that we can engage with people. And that's what I love to do. That's my kind of lifeblood. It excites me. I feed off of that, and
you get to be a fan of your own game.
Hell yeah, I got to be a fan of my game. I got to be a fan of my team. I got to be a fan of my audience. Like all of those things are, at the end of the day, I'm a cheerleader, right? I'm a vision holder, but I'm also a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun.
It's awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, that's the thing. It's like good games always come from a place of passion. They come from a place
100%.
of this is, something that I'm proud of. This is something that my team is proud of. All 250 people working on this thing, they believe in this thing. They've been working on this thing for years now. And yeah, it's super exciting. I'm hoping for the best. I think tomorrow's going to be a big day. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to, well, actually, there's a lot going on tomorrow because you got the Game Awards tomorrow too, which actually maybe that helps that trickle in a little bit. Maybe
exactly, it totally does. 100%. It does.
Is
that strategic? Is that 5 head? I don't know.
Hey, Asmon's gonna go watch the Game Awards, and then all the orbiters are gonna log off. It's like, oh, thank God. The server guys in the back sweating. Yeah, no, that's super good. That's super funny. Yeah, I think you answered just about everything I could think of. I mean, it was really, whenever I first messaged you, it was, hey, let's just have a conversation. Let's just hang out, and kind of just talk about it. And because I know there's a lot of people that are from the outside in, a lot of people are just kind of, hey, what's going on? And I think a lot of people haven't had this in a while. Even like you said, like you guys didn't even do a whole lot of marketing for early access. And I had people messaging me, they're like, wait, what? Early access already? It's funny because when they say already that's when it's really funny because you're like, brother, it's been 10 years. So it's like, hey, okay, yeah, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be great.
We're excited too, and obviously these kind of conversations are what I enjoy. I think you as a creator have built a phenomenal community. I know that now you've moved more into the home improvement space, and I think that's really cool too.
Life improvement. I'm trying to do the whole thing.
Life improvement. Apologies. Life improvement. But at the end of the day, you are what brings the social element. You foster that community. You provide us an avenue to inform others. And I'm all about that. And I love having these types of conversations, and I'd be happy to have them, again and with anybody. I think it's a lot of fun. I could talk about this shit all day.
Yeah, that's great. I love to hear it. I do want to say, I want to leave with one thing because somebody pointed this out the other day, and I can't stop thinking about it. Chat's gonna love this. We noticed. So Steven is almost like if you had me and Tips Out do a fusion dance, you'd get Steven. Like, just, he has a little bit more hair than Tips, has a little bit less hair than me. We got the beard. It's just like, you just merged us together. You get Steven. Super funny. So someday we got to get a picture of all three of us. So
I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, it'll be great. So Steven, thanks a ton for coming on. I think chat had a great time. I know there's a lot of new people here. A lot of people really passionate about Ashes. A lot of people that are, just, hey, they're tourists. They're coming to check it out for the first time. And hey, we'll see what happens tomorrow, kind of sort of feeling. And I think everybody had a great time.
Love it. I had a great time. Love your audience. Everybody in chat, thank you guys for sticking around and for the questions. And of course, Esfand, to you, thank you. Appreciate it always. Love you, brother, and love the energy that you bring. And I hope that you have a lot of fun tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. The same goes. So yeah, no, we built a really good community here. We lucked out big time. So I cannot wait for tomorrow. It's going to be great. So
let's do it.
Yeah. All right, Steven. We'll see you later. Thanks a ton.
All right. Later, brother.
All right. We'll see you. Damn. That was great, wasn't it, chat? Steven is so good, man. I love talking to Steven because he feels so much like he's one of us. He is the old school, like, hey, 30, 40-year-old. Well, I'm 25-ish. I'm like 25-ish. But just that kind of demographic, as the 25-ish demographic. I think it's great talking to Steven and getting to hear about everything. So tomorrow's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna get to, man, am I gonna play Bard? I don't know, dude. This is the first, every time I'm playing WoW and people, hey, what class should I play? And it's like, Chance said this one time. He's like, I don't know, what's your favorite color, right? That's kind of the feeling. Now I'm the one feeling like, what class should I play? What do you guys think? You guys think Bard? Do you think I'm a Bard? You look 50. I'm asked what class I'm supposed to play, man. Not how old do I look? Bard, tank, cleric, fighter. No, hey, and by the way, chat, I do want to say this. I really, really appreciate you guys. And like when we do these kinds of streams and we get to bring a guest on, we get to talk to them. You guys are so good, and people are polite. People ask good questions. People are positive. They're typing in chat, kind of promoting a good, positive environment. And that's something that means a lot, because not only does it make me feel good and it makes me have something that I can be proud of, but also it makes the guests feel good, right? And it makes the guests feel good about coming on stream and getting to talk to you guys and getting to interface with the community. It makes other people in the future be like, hey, Esfand's community is great. This is a good chat. Like if I reach out to somebody, like I reached out to Steven last night and he was like, yeah, of course. People talk about this stuff and devs see this kind of stuff, and it gives us more opportunities to get to have these cool sort of experiences. And I hope that on the flip side, that whenever I get to have these kind of experiences and I get to have these interviews and talk to these people who are making the games that we love, that I'm doing right by you guys and I'm asking good questions and I'm keeping it interesting for you guys too. Because I've always loved game design. I've always loved MMOs. I've always loved talking about games, everything. And even back from like the old classic WoW days. And anytime I get to do that, like it almost like, I don't know if it's like a physical thing that you guys can tell, but something does like kind of click in my brain where I go into like almost like I like lock into like it's like a different sort of thing that like goes off in my head, as opposed to the guy building a shelf telling his chat to suck it with the camera. So it's funny. I just respec. Okay. I respec. I got dual spec. I respec sometimes. All right. And I just go respec real quick and then we respec back. That's what happens to me. So yeah. Dude, the fact that Steven being like, yeah, I opened up your stream earlier and I don't know what I'm watching, but you just take your phone and you put it down here and you tell chat to suck it. I'm like, dude. You gotta be kidding me, dude. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. But yeah, great interview, man. It took them 10 years to create this game. I think this was a conversation. Yeah, 10 years. It's a big one. Yeah, MMOs take a long time, especially something like this. This is a really ambitious project. Big respect IRL. Yeah, big respect IRL. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it was, please hop in on more Ash's Discourse. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. Pausing my TTS. I don't think I did. Oh, I had the TTS muted. Okay, yeah, I'll unmute the TTS now. Sorry. Thank you for all the bits. Thank you for the subs. There was a bunch of people that subbed. There was a bunch of people that subbed to the YouTube channel. Bunch of people watching on YouTube. So, publisher telling devs to suck it. Okay, that's not... Okay, that is out of context. Vades, give this up to Paladin Enjoyer. House of Bricks to Lexmax. Swami, thank you, Swami, for the new tier 1. Savage Logic with a prime.
What class should
Nas,
you
26
play?
months.
Well, let's see.
Hydrogrums, thank you for the prime. Verlec.
You're 50-ish years old and bald in Sue. I don't really fucking know.
I'm not
why
balding.
are you asking me?
Irish Bastard, thank you for the prime. Nodas, thank you for the prime. We'll try and go live early tomorrow. Your boy Jigsaw, thank you for the tier 1. Thank you, man. Yeah, we'll try and go live early tomorrow because we're gonna have a big game ahead of us. So, yeah. Man, maybe Bard. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna go Bard. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go Bard, not bald. Maybe I'm gonna go Bard tomorrow. Frick! What? Unbelievable. I'm not gonna go bald, okay? I'm not gonna go bald, okay? I've got a nice head of hair, all right? As you can see. You're barding already. I'm not barding. I'm Tolkatron, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Lord Corgi, Cladathan, Nostalgia Cube, 36 months. Thank you. He's barding so hard. I'm not barding. I can't play Bard. I cannot play Bard tomorrow, dude. I cannot play Bard. You guys are ruining Bard for me, man. You guys are gonna ruin Bard for me. Unbelievable. Somebody asked about what do I mean by publisher? So I'm one of the owners of there's a publishing company that we have. It's called Mad Mushroom. Mad Mushroom. We published a few games so far. The last few games that we published were Conquest Dark, which is still in early access. Hell Clock, which had a big release. Or that was our first like 1.0 release and it had a big update recently.
Barding, bro.
I'm not barding. Squall, thank you for the 300 bits. Conquest Dark had an update today, actually. And then we had Night Swarm, which released last week and has already had one update. So Night Swarm is our newest game, and it's going like amazingly well. So if you guys, haven't checked it out, actually, if you guys could do me a favor, like one of the best ways that you guys can support, and you guys should absolutely go do this to Ashes as well. Go to the Ashes of Creation Steam page and just wishlist the game. I don't know why it's not working.
Esfand vibe, Esfand vibe.
Thank you, Rinnerin, for the 4 months. Wishlisting the game. Oh, I guess I already have it wishlisted on a different window. But if you wishlist the game, it like helps it in the algorithm and it kind of helps it push into trending and stuff like that. Oh, what the heck? I just realized my freaking monitor is right here. There you go. Yeah, it helps push it into trending if you wishlist the game. And even if you're not gonna buy the game, just wishlisting it is big. Same thing goes for Night Swarm. If you guys can, I posted a link to Night Swarm in chat.
Yeah, we can see your bard spot right there, little bro. Too bad there isn't a natural split class, huh? XDD?
Hopefully Esfand streams on YouTube more often. I do actually. I always multi-stream on YouTube. Yeah, and Kick normally, but for some reason my Kick is broken. Yeah, there it is. It's on YouTube chat too. So yeah, if you guys can go to that, if you guys can click that Night Swarm link and you guys can wishlist Night Swarm, and if you guys want to buy it, even better, right? But it's like a survivor like
interview, and you didn't even take the opportunity to ask him to reserve your name.
Frick!
Awesome.
I gotta message him.
Esfand, I don't care what they say about you. There's no shame in male pattern baldness.
Guys, I'm not balding. All right. Steven sold my name for 10K. Frick. Anyway, as I was saying, if you guys can click that link, that link for Night Swarm and wishlist the game, check it out. It's a survivor-like with like RPG progression, like persistent RPG. I keep saying like. It is like a roguelite. Okay, it's like a roguelite game, survivor type of game, a survivor-like game where it has like RPG elements of progression. And if you have some of these other games already, then it's actually, I mean, it's only $8.50. So if you guys want to buy the game, it's got a good deal right now. But just wishlisting alone goes big time. It's a huge way of being able to support. So, and make sure you do it for the Ashes creation on the Steam as well. So whenever it publishes, it boosts it up. So. Are you going to try Paladin if it gets shadow dropped in Diablo 4 tomorrow? Oh my gosh. I said I was going to play Diablo 4 again whenever they added Paladin. Are you serious? I said I would play Diablo 4 again or PoE if they add Paladin. Are they actually? Like, are the rumors actually that that's going to happen? There's no way. I will. I mean, I'm gonna play Ashes tomorrow. The game plan is Ashes. Tomorrow I'm gonna play Ashes and I'm gonna watch the Game Awards. That's the two things I have planned for tomorrow. Yeah. I said I would not play D4 unless they add Paladin. Just play Ashes and pull in Elon Musk for Diablo 4. Good plan. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Yeah.
Hey, are you gonna drop everything and play Rebirth if Part 3 gets announced at the Game Awards tomorrow?
I will if they announce Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 or whatever it is, Part 3, I will play Rebirth. Not tomorrow, okay? There's too many games, man. There's too many games. I'm doing my New Year's Revolution. Anyway, I'm going to make a new YouTube VOD here. I'm going to make a new YouTube VOD here. So I'll make a separate YouTube stream. That's how I categorize all my streams on YouTube. So all the VODs are saved. You guys can go back and you guys can watch those as well. The interview will be up there too. So for YouTube, the stream is not over, but for YouTube, I should make a YouTube outro for the edited video. Bangos, no, frick. First word I screwed up. Okay, YouTube outro for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching the YouTube video. Thank you guys for watching the interview. I hope you guys had a great time. I did. Chat was wonderful. I'm sure the comments will be wonderful as well. You guys are great. I'm super, super happy to get to do this and get to have these kinds of experiences because you guys are a great community. You guys are very welcoming and that's great for getting to have people on. People love being on the stream and get to have those kinds of conversations. So I hope you guys are excited for Ashes. I'm going to be playing it whenever it launches. I'll be live here on YouTube. I'll be live on Twitch and maybe on Kick if my Kick channel is working. It was broken before. So hope you guys enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, TikTok, whatever it is. If it exists, it's EsfandTV. Follow everything, sub to everything, whatever it is. And I'll see you guys next time. Cool. Great outro. And then for YouTube, I'm gonna make you guys a new VOD because I like to categorize things, like I said. Maybe do you think did I get banned on Kick? Me of all people. The outro, thanks, smash my keyboard. No, I had a blast, dude. I love getting to do this.
This jackass makes a New Year's revolution and actually commits to it all. And doesn't fricking add the one game we have been asking him to play to the list. This jackass freaking sucks.
Okay, here's the question.
Stand up and fight.